Good morning. Welcome to our second candidates forum. We are happy to have 4 out of the 5 candidates here this morning. And we are thankful for the attendance of homeowners here at the clubhouse and also those joining online. At this time, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to lead us in that. Please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I am going to turn the time over now to our general manager, Sheena McGill, and we will proceed. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Gregory. Hello, and welcome to the second and final Meet the Candidate forums for this year. My name is Sheena McGill. I'm your general manager, and I'll be the moderator for today. It would be my job to provide you with important election details and to act as timekeeper for our candidates. After the questions, I will provide a slide with important dates and upcoming election information. This event will allow homeowners an opportunity to meet the candidates running to fill the 5 open seats on the board. The questions being asked today were submitted directly to myself, and the candidates have not seen them. Each candidate will be asked various questions and will be afforded the opportunity to answer. And candidates will also be able to do an opening statement and a closing statement, so that way you guys can get a good feel about why they're running for the board. As timekeeper, I will set the timer, and when you hear it beep, your time is done. Mr. Reddick, I will start with you.
So good morning, everyone, and thank you, Sheena. Introduction, is that what we're looking for right now? Okay, so let me introduce myself to those who may not know me. My name is Robert Riddick. I'm a longtime resident of Sunnymead Ranch, been here since 1993. Have had the opportunity to first serve on the board in 2007 and served until 2022. And during that time, I was able to hold pretty much every position on the board. I took the 2 years off since 22 to kind of regroup and look and see what's going on in the ranch and look at ways that it could be improved or make it a better quality of life for everyone who lives here. And when the opportunity presented itself to come back on the board, or at least attempt to come back on the board, I thought I'd take advantage of that opportunity. So here I am, good or bad, better or worse. I'm trying to get on the board again and do my best to serve the residents of Sunnymead Ranch. I really am looking forward to this opportunity again. I really, looking at the board, my fellow candidates, from what we heard last week, I have a sense that we've got a good board that's going to be moving forward once this election takes place. And I'm glad to, and I'm looking forward to working with them. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Nunnally?
Good morning. My name is Merrill Nunnally. I've been in the community since 2002. I'm a retired lieutenant commander with the United States Navy. I've observed a lot of things that's happened within the community. I do believe in community and a sense of community. I also believe in transparency. Some of the things that I do is due to help a more communal process in terms of helping people become more comfortable talking to one another and more comfortable talking with the board themselves in terms of asking questions and getting their questions answered, and feel that they feel that they don't have any challenges, and when they have anything that they need to ask, they can present it knowing that they'll get a respectful answer. Or if they don't have an answer, the board would do everything possible to try and get them an answer. So these are the things that I'm looking forward to doing, some of the things, and working with the board to help not only homeowners that have questions that may not feel comfortable coming forward, and I want to present in a situation where they can feel that they can approach us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Osborne?
Hi, guys. Rennie Osborne here. You may or may not know me. I'll just give you some highlights of my stellar background. So I have over 30 years experience in business management, education. I was elected by my fellow directors back in 2021 to serve as president, and I've served as president since that time. I've served as secretary, treasurer, as well as president. I think I'm a fairly adequate facilitator. I can help drive consensus to get to a decision. I am data driven, so the board over the last several years have relied on data. So we talked about examples, when to heat the pool. So we tracked how many people use the pool and so on, how many guests, how many members, so that we could drive decisions regarding security as well as pool heating. So we opted to stop heating it in the winter because there was no one using it, even when it was heated. I have an IT background in training and IT itself, so I am drawn to technology as a way to streamline efficiencies. And we've done a lot of things with jot forms where our members can interact with us, feedback, as well as like you get a violation, you can say, those aren't my trash cans, or that's not my house, or whatever, or I repaired that work. So lots of that. I have a CAI certified board leader certification. And very recently I was awarded Association Volunteer of the Year from CAI, which is pretty special for me. And I represented Sunnymead Ranch in Sacramento last year at our Advocacy Week, which thankfully the board has agreed that this is an important task, and we're going to move forward having a representative advocate for us, because we know with AB 130, that was a train wreck, should never have happened, but despite us fighting against it, it moved on. But CAI is working on things to mitigate that. So we hope to get some traction there. Thank you.
Mr. Barnes?
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Jade Barnes. I've been in the ranch for the last 3 years. I am married. I have 2 dogs, a baby girl, Layla, who's a Rottweiler, and a 3-year-old boy Rottweiler. No kids, just my pets. I have been serving in a leadership capacity with organizations and people since the age of 10, and haven't stopped since then. I'm now, 40, will be 41. Or am I 41? What year is it? 41. That's what happens as you get older. Your mind comes and goes a little bit. But here for one simple reason, bring a little youth, bring a little enthusiasm, bring some fresh ideas and perspectives to help shape and make the ranch even better. I'm a fairly common sense person. I like to be very direct and honest with people, great listener, and I've heard countless comments about not being heard, not being seen, wanting more engagement. And I'm here to just help facilitate that and bring an added listening ear. I believe there's plenty of opportunity for community to build here, to experience more, to leverage the properties that we value so much. And I'm going to do my best within my power to make sure that that happens.
Thank you, candidates. Okay, so we're going to jump right into the questions. My first question is for Mr. Reddick. What position on the board do you see yourself holding?
So looking back, in the previous times that I've served, I've held all the positions on the board: president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, at large. as well as chairs of all of the committees at one time or another. Coming back on the board, I would lead that to the meeting that we're going to conduct after the election, where the officers are selected, and I would leave it to my peers on the board to select what position I would actually hold. As far as I'm concerned, I'm willing and able to serve in any capacity, no matter what, even as director at large if necessary. It's just not a. It's part of being part of the team and making sure that wherever the team feels that each one of us needs to serve their best is where I'll end up being. So.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Mr. Nunley, where would you like to see more transparency in the association?
I would like to see transparency in all aspects in terms of questions that the homeowners may ask, that we're able to answer their questions and get back with them, either by an email blast, either through the roundup, or if it's something that's specific to that particular person, maybe an email to that particular person. The idea here is that each member of the community feels comfortable coming to the board, asking a question, and being able to get a proper answer. Or and here's another thing too, is that the question that homeowner may have may be something another homeowner may have also, and just didn't know how to ask it or didn't ask it. By answering that question, everybody benefits from that. So that's what I see in terms of how important being transparent, being able to.
I'm sorry, sir, not to interrupt, but that's your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Osborne, what's one word to describe your leadership style?
I think you should ask my fellow directors that. Domineering. Yeah. I do, as role of president, it is my job to help the board determine our long-term goals and drive to those. So domineering, yeah, because it takes a lot of effort to get things done when we only meet once per month. And that's the challenge, is that if everything is not, and typically those long-term goals are much more complex than just saying, are we going to repair a gate or are we going to repair a fence? Those are givens. The long-term goals cost more money, have lots of moving parts to them, and it takes many meetings to get them, those questions answered. Therefore, a turnaround time of like 6 months from beginning to end is not unreasonable, is not outrageous. It is just the way it works out. So that is part of my my style. I seek feedback from all of the directors, because that builds a better board. Because we walk into a meeting thinking one way and we might come out thinking totally differently, because another director can bring up a point that we hadn't viewed it from. So I think that probably sums it up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Barnes, what specific challenges do you see with current rules and regulations?
The initial one that comes to mind is just use of facilities. And it's very laborious to book this space, to leverage places on our property. And I would like to see that streamlined and more efficient to make it more inviting for homeowners to take advantage of this great space.
Thank you. Mr. Riddick, what role should homeowners' input play in board decisions?
So one of the things that we encourage, and a lot of folks aren't always aware of it, is that homeowners have as much opportunity to input to the board what they're going to discuss. And that's just by merely reaching out to either you, the manager, with a note or an email saying, I'd like this particular issue discussed at an upcoming board meeting. And that will be passed on to the board members in the board package if it is a reasonable request. It can't be something like, I want to do a function at the clubhouse next week, and somebody else has already booked it, and I want it because mine's more important. That's not going to get on the agenda. But if you have a legitimate issue that you want to bring up, you just reach out to any of the board members. Our contact information is readily available in the newsletter, or to the general manager, and you just tell them, hey, I'd like this discussed. Can you put it on the agenda? And it'll be put on the agenda for discussion. You also have open forum available to you, the 3 minutes at the beginning of each board meeting, where you can voice any issue that you want, whether it's a compliment or an issue that you want to bring up for discussion, whatever. That's just some of the ways.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Nunnally, was there a specific decision or situation that motivated you to run for the board?
Yes, there was. I found that the penalties themselves were, in my opinion, were skyrocketing. The monthly assessments were getting higher and higher, and I wanted to look at that a little bit more deeply. I also noticed that our reserve accounts were getting lower, and I wanted to investigate to see why these things were happening and see if we can improve upon that. So there's a lot of things that I feel that if we, as a director and speaking with other directors, and especially the ones that's been on there, to get more clarity on that. And that's one of the reasons why I got on.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Osborne, are you in favor of advocating for a repeal of AB 130 to empower the association to increase violation fines?
I am absolutely 100% in favor of repealing 130. I don't think that's going to happen per se, because 130 is actually just one minuscule part of a larger bill, and that's how it came into being. Kind of like if you look at Congress looking for something to keep the government open, and there's tons of little things inside. This got slipped in, and therefore it got passed. AB 130 has done a disservice, in my opinion, to our community. We did increase fines. Again, fines only occur if you don't correct the violation. So if you don't get the trashy trucks off your driveways, or the big ass boats, large boats off of your driveways, then you will incur a fine. We found that the old fine schedule was laughable. We seriously had a homeowner say, it's cheaper for me to pay the fine than to rent a spot for my boat. That sends the wrong message. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Barnes, how would you balance individual homeowner requests with fiduciary responsibilities as a director?
I think that everything should be heard. So I think the balance is making sure that you listen and understand the requests, and then assess and review the budget to accommodate. And things that can be done immediately, you'll execute those, and those that can't, you plan for it the next fiscal year. It's not a no, it just may be a not right now. And we have to be okay with making those decisions because the financial piece is 100% important to all homeowners to ensure we have sustainability of the property.
Thank you. Mr. Riddick, one word to describe your leadership style.
One word to describe.
To describe your leadership style.
One word. Determined. No, if you'd like me to expand on that, I can. I thought you just asked for one word.
It's your turn. It's your time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason I chose that word is because if the board decides on doing something, the one thing we can't do is not do it. for any number of reasons. Our job is to make sure that if we've decided on some form of or some route of action on an issue, that we should see it through. Your expectation is that when you hear us discuss these issues up here at the board and during the meetings, that if we have a yes vote to adopt a particular issue and move forward on it, your expectation is that we're going to do that. And unless we have a very, very valid reason for not following through and doing that, then it just doesn't get done. And it creates a lack of credibility for the board versus the homeowners. We say we're going to do something, and for whatever reasons, we end up not doing it. So my position is that if we take a vote on an issue and we say we're going to do it, I'm determined to make sure that that happens. That's where I get determination from.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Mr. Nunnally, what specific challenges do you see with the current rules and regulations?
The challenges that I see right now, the more imminent one is the economy is in such a flux right now that a lot of people are struggling just to make ends meet. And with the rules and regulations on there and the penalties that has a mass on there, it makes a person have to struggle to determine whether to pay whatever fine that they have, or pay for the next medication, pay for their food, their mortgage, or whatever. So the things like that, the homeowner should be able to come forward to the board and say something about that. But as things are being put out, it's such that they feel that they have a barrier there that they can't approach without having some kind of retaliation coming at them. And that's what I feel that's a little bit strong on that.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Osborne, what position on the board would you like to hold?
We're going somewhere, Francis. That's funny. I've done all of the roles except for vice president. I think all roles on the board have an important position, duties that go along with it. So like Robert Reddick, I will echo his, is that, and the officer roles are voted on by the board. So, you know, you guys elect us to the board, and then within the board, we elect for those officer positions. So I'm happy with any of them.
Thank you so much. Mr. Barnes, what role should homeowners' input play in board decisions?
We're a board for the community, so every voice matters. It's important to take that feedback. It's a crucial role as to driving how we shape and mold the community. Our job is to balance rules, regulations, laws in order to balance what those expectations are. But we are here to serve, and always at the expense of the homeowners. That we act as their voice and balance and make things happen.
Thank you. Mr. Riddick, are you in favor of advocating for a repeal of AB 130 to empower the association to increase violation fines?
I absolutely am. And like Renee mentioned, this is a bill that was snuck in at the last minute during last year's budget session. And most of the legislators were not aware of that particular piece of the bill being introduced. There was no open hearings provided to the public on it. There were no committee hearings from the legislation on discussing the merits or the downside of passing that amendment. And it just got approved because it was part of the budget, and nobody was going to hold up the budget. At the same time, by not having a tool that really is intended to be a deterrent motivator for homeowners addressing violations, it leaves the board really almost armless in making sure that the contract that every single homeowner signed when they moved in here, and that was to abide by the rules and regulations, is actually enforced. $100 per violation. If you have a boat or a trailer or a motorhome in your yard, you can keep it there for $100. That's it. And most people will pay that $100. It just doesn't make any sense. So no, I would absolutely oppose AB 130 and hope that it gets modified.
Thank you. Mr. Nunley, how would you balance individual homeowner requests with your fiduciary responsibility as a director?
The first thing I would do is investigate the request and see does any part of that request fall in line with the established rules and regulations within the bylaws and the CCNR. If it can, if we can work something with the homeowner, then we would through the board, it would be presented with the board, explain what the homeowner is requesting. If we can assist them in that kind of way, we would attempt to do so. If not, then we would then the thing would be to explain to the homeowner why we can't assist them for whatever request that they have made. But at first, we would have to investigate why they're asking and what is the purpose of their request.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Osborne, was there a specific decision or situation that motivated you to rerun for the board?
To rerun, yes. I still have things that I would like to accomplish here for our community. As I said, you know, the board over the last couple of years, we've set out a couple of lofty, long-range goals, and we have to keep driving toward them. Otherwise, they will falter and they'll just fall by the wayside and never to be picked up again. So I have unchecked items on my to-do list that I would like to. So some of those, I'd like to finish up the trifecta program. I would love to get the architectural guidelines updated and digital and more easily understandable. Those are the top ones that I have that take a lot of lifting.
Thank you so much. Mr. Barnes, what position on the board would you like to hold?
I'm open. I'm flexible. I've always been the youngest person in the room, leading older people. It has been that way since. I mean, like I said, I've started serving and being president, vice president, secretary, treasurer at the age of 10. My first time. I've led office and been president in most organizations. Uh, I've led adult and alumni organizations at the age of 23, 24, fresh out of college, where older members were 70, 80 years old. I understand people. I can communicate. I believe that having a clear vision, some direction, transparency is efficient. So wherever is necessary, I will happily step into that space to make sure I'm being a conduit and representative of many of you all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Riddick, where would you like to see more transparency in the association?
So I would turn that into not transparency, but communications, because communications is going to provide the transparency. So I would focus more on communications. And I would say that if there's anything that the board is doing in the way of making decisions that impact the association's membership, that should be effectively communicated. And we have a lot of tools available to do that. And in the past, we have not done always the best job of doing that. But my intent moving forward is that we make every single effort to make sure that any decision we make, any issue we discuss is passed on to the membership in the most effective way. And that means using all of our tools, the newsletter, e-blast, coming to a board meeting, even if you can't come in person, attend it on Zoom. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. But communication is my answer to transparency. Doesn't matter what the issue is that we're talking about. If we cannot communicate that effectively to you, then you need to bring that to us and say, you're not doing your job. We didn't get that. We didn't get that notice. We didn't know about that issue. So that's what I would look at as far as transparent communications.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Nunley, describe your leadership style.
My leadership style is structured. I do not. do not like chaos in terms of just handling things haphazardly. I like to have a structured plan as to whenever I start something, have an agenda, go through the agenda, handle things on that. If we do have something, if we can fit it into the agenda, then we can. If we can't, then that's something we would postpone to another secondary meeting. But one of the things is that it just really baffles me, or really, I ain't gonna say angers me, but it just frustrates me is when I come into a meeting and we don't have a direction or purpose or way in which we're going to proceed in anything. We just kind of go at things haphazardly. So yes, my leadership is more structured in doing things.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Osborne, what specific challenges do you see with the current rules and regulations?
If we're referring to the rules and regulations, so people equate rules and regulations with our governing documents and our bylaws. The rules and regulations were recently adopted, revised by a heavy lift of the board, going through language, wordsmithing, and so on, each one of those rules and regulations. I think that they're pretty darn good. Since then, I have a list. Next time we do them, we're going to discuss this. Bike riding on the association as opposed to bikes being present on the association grounds. So we've made some distinctions. Mr. Barnes had asked me last time, like, why do we not allow wheeled vehicles? And I was explaining that whole liability issue and the fact that our sidewalks surrounding these areas are incredibly tiny, and it would just be a recipe for somebody getting hit. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Barnes, was there a specific decision or situation that motivated you to run for the board?
Renting this room was a number one driver. It's incredibly laborious and frustrating. From timing to submitting guest lists, when that guest list is due, the deposits, the fact that multiple events can't happen here in the same day. I think some of the structure just lacks common sense and functionality. And again, I'm a fan of don't complain about something unless you're willing to step in and come up with a solution to revise. It's not that every rule is wrong or inappropriate, but I think things need to be looked at and assessed and see if we can make it easier for the people to use. There's also been times where just not being able to bring my dog to hang out here, or not being able to fish year round, or not being able to take out the pedal boats when it's 70 or 80 degrees in, what is this, February. There's many things that, like, I want to use this all year round. We pay all year round, and I want to make sure our space is leveraged for that.
Thank you so much. Mr. Riddick, how would you balance individual homeowner requests with your fiduciary responsibility as a director?
I think we mentioned this before, that homeowners have the opportunity to approach the board on any issues that they want. And I think that balancing those issues that they bring to us is a matter of whether or not the issues stand the test of, is this a good issue to bring to the board for full discussion, or is it something that a director can handle on their own by just discussing the issue a little bit further with the homeowner who raises it? For the most part, issues that homeowners have should be brought to the board so that the board as a whole can debate the merits of those issues while at the same time, and this is critically important, while at the same time making sure that we protect the interest of the association. Now, a lot of times that point is missed in that when issues come to the board, it has to be looked at in overall perspective of, is this going to benefit the board? Benefit the association, or is this just a singular personal issue that someone wants the board to step in and interact on their behalf? And I would submit that It's always, always paramount. As a matter of fact, it's our fiduciary duty to make sure that anything and everything we decide on always is in the best interest of the association. So that's a tough one to balance, but we can do it.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Mr. Nunnally, are you in favor of advocating for a repeal of AB 130 to empower the association to increase violation fines?
Technically, I am not. And the reason being is, as I mentioned, the economic climate as it is right now. And while I understand that some of the things I've heard regarding um, getting homeowners to handle the fines and stuff that they've been fined on there, I think we can find other ways to encourage and convince homeowners to handle their uh, fines and correct the problems on there than to keep on increasing the fine, because the fines themselves, because it don't affect, if we're going to do that, we do it to an individual on a special assessment or something like that, but not where it imposes across the board on there. So that would be something that I would look into, as opposed to just constantly raising the assessment across the board.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Osborne, what role should homeowners' input play in board decisions?
That's an interesting question. So the board, y'all have heard this, that we have a fiduciary duty, and we do. So that's a legal requirement that we enforce the rules and regulations, the CCNRs, and the bylaws. And all of our authority to fine or take away privileges comes from those governing documents. So there's that side of the coin. On the other side, we have member feedback, and member feedback is important, and we take that into consideration for things that we have discretion over. Some things are black and white, other things are not. Feedback is important because, like I said, we just redid the rules and regulations recently. So if we get feedback about a particular rule that causes us to discuss it and see the other side, then it can affect that. But bottom line, the directors must enforce the rules and regulations as they stand at this point.
Thank you. Mr. Nunnally, your microphone is on if you want to tap it. Mr. Barnes, where would you like to see more transparency in the association?
Everywhere. I think this is a community organization, and there should be nothing that the homeowners can't see or access outside of personal private data. All transactions, decision making, detailed notes from meetings, all of that should be easily accessible and visible and communicated. I thought that Mr. Riddick had an excellent point. I mean, like, we have to work on comms, and as we have meetings, there's no reason why those things can't be disseminated again to the community, so it's easy to find. I don't expect our community members to go on a witch hunt to try to track down the details. It should be easily accessible and visible to anyone who wants to see it at any given moment.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Riddick, what specific challenges do you see with the current rules and regulations?
So I don't see them as challenges. We just spent almost 2 years reviewing our current rules and regulations, and the committee put a lot of hours into that. They brought it to the board. The board put it out for the community to see. Held meetings discussing the contents of the rules changes. So, and it was adopted unanimously by the board. There was very little, if any, as I recall, resistance to any of the rules. And in fact, a lot of the rules that were changed were incorporated because of homeowners' input that the board had received when they were asked, is there anything you'd like to change? And when that input was received by the committee, we took it, we incorporated it into the revised rules and regulations. So at this point, it's always good to review them. If you have homeowners who are saying, and a lot of homeowners are saying that we don't particularly care for this particular rule, bring it to the board. added as an agenda item. It then becomes an issue for discussion by the board in front of all the membership that attends that meeting. And we can weigh the merits of whether that rule should be changed or not. It's the way it's done.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Mr. Nunnally, what position would you like to hold on the board?
At this point, I'm very new on this, in terms of, possibly being on the board. At this point, I'd be open, to whatever position that I be elected to.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Osborne, where would you like to see more transparency in the association?
So the term transparency is kind of a pet peeve of mine. I go back and each year we ask this question of folks, like, how do we increase transparency? So I'll touch on a couple of things. So this is what we currently do. Perhaps we can do it better, but we do e-blast twice a month. We don't do them any more than that because the more you e-blast, the more spam they consider it and they unsubscribe. So that goes out twice per month. Newsletter goes out once per month. We do jot forms for suggestions, old school suggestion forms. We do coffee with the board. So, and our website contains more information than you'd ever want to know. All of our CC&Rs, the architectural guidelines, maps, and so on. How we can do better. I picked up something from what Mr. Barnes said last time, that we need to do a QR code in our newsletter to say, if you want an e-blast, then shoot this QR code, because telling you how to get an email in a paper format is trickier. So communication.
Thank you. Mr. Barnes, are you in favor of advocating for a repeal of AB 130 to empower the association to increase violation fines?
This is a tough one for me. I'm not a huge fan of driving up prices for people. However, I do think there is value in terms of deterring people from doing things that bring down property value. I think there should be some balance in terms of like creativity and how we enforce, and I think we can spend some time looking at that to mitigate costs. Um, but I also need to understand, like, is that I think we can continue to stress the importance. So I think there's balance. My concern is that we don't spend too much valuable time and or money trying to fight against something that is probably not going to change. It's just how do we work with the constraints that we have is my gut.
Thank you. Mr. Riddick, was there a specific decision or situation that motivated you to rerun for the board?
I can't think of a particular situation or issue. My motivation to run was simple. This community is made up of 2,677 homeowners, almost 8,000 total population. And when I saw that the nominations for running for the board were announced, I had a feeling just by listening to social media chatter that there weren't going to be a lot of folks out of that 8,000 total population who thought, you know, do I really want to put myself out there and run for the board? And especially looking at the history of what's happened with the interaction between the membership and the board over the years. And I thought, you know what? We're not going to have a lot of people run. They're just not going to step up because of what's happened in the past, and they just don't want to have to deal with that, especially the negative side of it. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to throw it out there, see if there are folks that are going to be running, I'll compete with them, but at least there will be people running. And that was really my main motivation. And as it turns out, who ran? Who stepped up? Who had enough interest to say, I'm going to take it on? And who was not afraid of what they may get back from the community, regardless of what they think or what they feel? And here we are.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Nunnally, what role should homeowner input play in board decisions?
since it is the homeowners themselves, I think in my opinion, the input would drive um, us to discuss whether it be if whether it would cause a rule change or anything like that. That would be strictly up to the board itself in terms of making any rule change and stuff like that. But the input would be valuable to allow the homeowner know that they've been heard and that their decision would be considered. Now, as far as making changes and stuff like that, that would be based on the CC&R bylaws and so forth.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Osborne, how would you balance individual homeowner requests with your fiduciary responsibility as a director?
I thought I answered that. So a couple of things. The board is responsible. We have fiduciary duty to enforce the governing documents. Feedback is important so that in the event of being able to change those documents, like the rules and regulations, which as I said, we recently did, we did take homeowner feedback. We had feedback like, they wanted to ban alcohol usage at the pool. We had a very robust discussion about that and felt that while we saw some merit in that, that we didn't feel that that was something that we should do. So we do take feedback. I do want to touch on a couple of points that every time the board makes a decision Davis Sterling requires that the board send things out for 28-day review. Just last meeting, we opted to put payment plan standards in place so that people who are struggling with their payments of assessments can do a payment plan. The rules and regulations went out for 28-day review. So homeowners do have a voice if they choose to use it.
Thank you. Final question. Mr. Barnes, describe your leadership style.
I think this word is hyphenated, so we'll go with that. Servant leader as one word. I think the OJ said it best. You got to give the people what they want. And it's pretty simple. I think we listen and encourage people to talk to us and make decisions accordingly. None of us up here are qualified to be a dictator to our community, and having buy-in and input and balance is going to be important. We all are intelligent enough to make common sense decisions. Every request that comes in is not going to be honored, but we also have the obligation to innovate and improvise and improve and create a more prosperous, more communal space that's fun, that's engaging, that makes our property values go up, that makes us enjoy living here. And I think that serving the people is the first way. People follow people. You lead from the front, not behind.
Thank you, sir. That's all the questions that I have. I will start with the closing statements. It's on you, Mr. Reddick.
So I'm gonna hit a couple of things that we all discussed as part of my closing, if you don't mind. I want to also emphasize another way that you can find out exactly what's taking place at the board meetings to increase that transparency is go on the website again and look at the minutes. We publish the minutes of every single meeting except for the executive committee meetings, which are confidential by nature. I also wanted to mention that what Mr. Barnes had mentioned. He mentioned a couple of key words that I really homed in on, and that was home values and tied to AB 130. AB 130, if it stays unchanged, is going to have a negative impact on every single home in our community, every single one. No matter how much you put into the upkeep of your property, it's going to take a hit because your next door neighbor doesn't care. He's going to do whatever he wants to his property because he knows the limitations on a fine is $100. And we've seen it already, and it's unfortunate, but it's our community, and that's one of the reasons why we're fighting, at least I'm fighting, to make sure that anything and everything that can be done to overturn AB 130 takes place. And keep in mind that you only get fined if you don't correct your violation. It's not a everybody gets fined issue. It's an individual who does not take responsibility. And if they have an issue with finances, the board also has a thing called discretion that it can exercise. Homeowner comes to the board, and we've done this many times, comes to the board and says, this is my situation. Can you cut me some slack? The board does. It absolutely does. Now, if you refuse to work with the board, that's a different story. And it doesn't matter whether you live in an HOA or whether you live in an apartment building in downtown, you don't pay your rent or you don't take care of the property, you don't want to work with the landlord, then nothing happens except for the negative. I also want to end by saying that budgeting, there's a lot of things that this community could do, but it's all driven by the budget. We're going to sit here and work on a budget in a couple of months, and that budget has to be zero balance. Otherwise, if it's not, you're going to pay the difference. And I know you don't want to. So when we do that budget, the things we have to consider is all of our obligated bills, the contractors, everything that's involved there. And then we can look at, okay, now it's time for fun and games. What are we going to do for social? We got to make sure there's money there for that, but that's not the primary purpose of that budget being created, is to pay the bills. So, and I think that's it.
That's your time.
So, oh, I'm sorry.
No worries. Thank you, sir. Mr. Nunnally, your closing statement, please.
I am new for running for the board. I've run the board for the board a number of times. I have a lot of ideas that I like to see to work to help implement within the board. I like to share a lot of the good ideas, and it seems like right now the board is open to listening to some things. One of the things I will try to do is try to implement more homeowner board interaction in terms of them feeling free to come before us and talk with us, or find some way to get in touch with us, whatever issue that they have, so that we can discuss it. I want them to feel free and know that they're being heard, that they're being taken seriously, and that they're going to get a distinct answer, not a roundabout answer. Yes, and again, as board members, we have to take the entire association into consideration, but we can also do that by also addressing the issue for the individual homeowner. Because again, by addressing the individual homeowner, we don't know if we're covering everybody else that may have that same issue. So by doing that, by doing the little things, I think we can get more community interaction, more people feeling comfortable coming forward, and more interaction. And that's what I'd be looking to do in this upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Osborne, your closing statement.
So I thought I was going to chime in with Robert on AB 130, but I think he brought up some valid points that AB 130 did a disservice to our community. But I did like what Mr. Nunnally said. He has lots of ideas, and what I've requested of directors in recent years has been to always ask, like, why did you get on the board? So maybe you want to take that on as a project. Those projects, if they were easy, they'd already been done. So if there's projects that you want to take on, then we'd like you to be the point person for those items and drive it. Be that determined person to keep driving them along. Projects that we've worked on in the past, Trifecta is one, that's my baby. Weed abatement. Weed abatement was a huge issue, with the Altadena fire in the Pacific Palisades. This board took this very, very seriously, and we got weed abatement quotes, complete with goats and whatnot. And we put in a policy, and we now track every parcel that this association owns, all 212 acres of common area that we maintain. So that is what I'm hoping that these fellow board members come is like, I have this idea and I'm willing to take on the heavy lifting and keep driving it forward, because that will make us richer, because we cannot rely on our small staff who maintain the day-to-day operation, and they're not looking that 30,000-foot view. That's our job, and that's what we need to drive.
Mr. Barnes, your closing statements. Thank you, Mrs. Osborne.
Oh, it's me again. You know, I think it's important to acknowledge that board leadership and service is hard. It's not, if it was easy, everyone can do it. And I have criticisms, concerns, complaints, all those things, but I don't want to detract from those who have served before. There's tremendous value in that, and somebody had to make the decisions, and I don't want that to fall on deaf ears. It's incredibly hard. With that being said, I do think it's important, and my plan for being here is to make a quick assessment of our current state and figure out where and how we should take action. I think we could do a deep dive in our quote unquote mandatory bills and see where we can save money and be able to shift those funds to things that help grow and add value to the community. My goal is to be able to save money, and there are opportunities. We just have to find them in order to offset what's happening with the AB 130. And then it's going to be important. There's probably 80 to 90 years worth of experience here. People living in the community. There's value in that too. And my job is to work collaboratively and effectively with the people that are up here to get shit done. It's very, very simple for me. Being new doesn't mean you know everything, and you don't come over here and burn the whole ship down. You figure out what's working, what's not, and create some balance with that. And where we could steer the bow forward, that's where we'll do it. And where we can't, we'll pump the brakes. So let's get after it. We got work to do.
Thank you, candidates. I want to remind everyone that we do have our annual election on March 4th. That's coming up, and I'll let Greg lead us in our closing statements.
Go. Thank you. And there are 5 seats open for this election, and here we have 5 seats that have been involved in this. And okay, want to encourage everyone to please vote. It's important, although that there are 5 running and 5 seats open. It's important that we vote to meet the quorum, thank you, of the election. And if we can do that on the first ballot, it saves the association money. So please also encourage our neighbors to vote. And we also, you can go to the frequently asked questions to view information about the election on the oursunnymeadranch.com website. You can get information there as well. Thank you, candidates, for your participation. Thank you, Merrill. Yes, and I'm given a note here that 2% so far, 55 votes have been cast. So we can go home and place our votes today and bump that number. Thank you. And thank you all, and have a good day.
Before we leave, thank you so much, Director Moran. To Mr. Nunnally's point, I want to make sure that you all are aware that online voting has been available for like a week now, and we have, a paltry 2% of and we need 25%. So we're sorely lacking. If you haven't received your email, it came from Sunnymead Ranch at thaiivote.com. Those people who opted out of electronic secret balloting would have received a ballot pack in the mail, and you should have already received that.
Renee, you might want to remind them that there will be no carry-in ballots for this election. as
Oh,
well.
yes. So as you know, this is, and we've advertised it 6 times now in our newsletter and on the e-blast that we're doing electronic secret balloting as provided by California law. So with it comes some changes. There will be no ballot box here. There will be no, before we had polls open and people would come in between like 5 and 6. That's no longer a thing. So if you paper balloted it, make sure you fill it out, drop it in the mail. It's postage paid. And if you did online voting, then it is super easy, super easy. What I like about it is you can keep going back up there to look at what the quorum is. So it says 25% quorum. We're at 2%.
And
Sure.
one more,
But we'll wrap this up and then I'll answer your question.
one more thing, just remember that when you guys are voting, you're not just voting for your candidates, you're also voting for their terms and how long they're on the board as well. So
Oh, that's a good.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Now, so as you all know, this is your board. The people receiving the two individuals receiving the highest vote counts will receive a 2-year term, and the remainders will serve a 1-year term before they have to rerun. In addition to the director vacancies, we have I don't recall the IRS revenue thing, which says if we had extra money, could we roll it into the next budget, or do we get taxed on it? So each year we've voted that in, as well as the minutes. Okay. Do you want to wrap up? Yes. I'm going to answer those questions after she wraps this up. Oh, okay. Go ahead. No. Yeah. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. Since they're postage paid, they can just drop it in their mailbox or at the post office if they feel more confident. Director Goller, you had a question? So that's a valid point to make sure. So it's interesting. This is our first election electronically. So whatever email addresses you had with the association, to Director Goller's point, she had her director email as well as her personal. It gets sent to both. You only get to vote once. They know, because I tried. I wanted to test the system and see, could I vote again? Nope, it knew I had already voted. So check your spam and your junk mail for that email address. And if you haven't received it, in the roundup, there's an email address and a phone number to call, and they'll help you out. Okay.
that was it. If you guys have any questions in regards to elections or anything, just shoot them my way. The email address is gm@our_sunnymead ranch, and I'm happy to either answer them or forward them over to the inspector of election. And he's been great.
Right. Yeah. And there is a distinction. The office has nothing to do with the election other than directing people. So asking about the candidates, that kind of stuff, they cannot handle. All of the election questions really should go to the third party inspector of elections, because we don't want the staff in the middle of this.
And we don't want to be.
We don't want to be. Gracie, did you have a question? We can do that after. Yeah.
I do want to say I did get and this may come up for other people that may be online or here. I got a question that came in from another homeowner. Basically, she received her ballot and it had let's see. I'm gonna just make sure I'm verbatim because I don't want you guys to bite my head off. It had the person that lived there that passed on, but she acquired the home. The inspector of elections direction is as long as the outside of the envelope states the address that it's supposed to go to and you sign the exterior, that you can still mail in your ballot.
Interesting. Oh, yes. Robert, would you like to go ahead and, go ahead, Meryl?
The electronic ballot is easier. You cannot mess up on that, okay? Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
So, yes, thank you, Linda. Our governing documents allow for cumulative voting. So, the number of votes each household receives is the number of seats open. So we have 5 seats open. Each household can cast 5 votes. And you can cast them however you want. You can cast 5 for me. You can cast 5 for Jade. You can cast 1 for each of us, 2, pick and choose. And I also tested that, Meryl. You write in like 1, 2, 3 or whatever, and it totals. So I was doing 5, 5, and they said, nope, you're over the number of votes. So it's a pretty good system.
Like called in for questions? Yeah. Oh, online or questions about the inspector of election? 6. Mhm. But I want to be transparent, guys. This is not my first rodeo doing something like this. I've been doing this since 2003. That is not uncommon. I also live in a very large community in Menifee. There's not a lot of participation. That's just HOAs in general.
That's just, I will say that's voting in general. The last election that I was in, and people were like, oh my God, we can't get this. Well, state of California just had an election and they got 18%, so when we get 15-second quorum, yeah, we're right there, Yeah, unfortunately.
I think someone asked if they could talk to directors directly and ask them questions after this is over. I would encourage anyone who does have any questions about anything that you've heard us say today, just walk up to us and ask us any further questions you like. I think we're all open to hearing what you have to say and what your questions might be.
Absolutely. That's what this forum is for. So that way you can make a conscientious decision of who you're voting for.